and welcome back to The Fruit of Grisaia, Sachi's route. In the last episode, Yuuji decided to call upon help from the principal Tachibana and his employer JB for help getting Sachi back to a normal state, so to say. Some strange smelly packages arrived, and Yuuji began working on them under the pretense of being a gardener for the school in order to help Sachi out. Meanwhile, Sachi was studying hard in order to not only prepare for the exam, the test that was coming up as the school summer vacation was ending, but also to ponder over the request that she got from Michiru to get rid of the test, which she had done before by burning down a school. Now, the problem lying in is that this new Mihammer Academy likely isn't that flammable, with all things being stone rather than wood. Let's continue.
There's a ghost in this school!
A pleasant morning, the first relatively cool day after what felt like weeks of brutal heatwave. Headlines in the newspapers. After gathering us in the dorm lobby, Michiru delivers this abrupt announcement. I was wondering what sort of big news might warrant this emergency meeting of yours, but I see it's just more the usual inane drivel.
You talk good game, little lady, but your legs seem to be trembling something fierce.
Look, Michiru, yes, summer vacation's nearly over, so I understand why an entertainer like yourself would want to fire things up for the last fleeting moments. But isn't it a little late for cooling down with chilling stories?
You got it all wrong, and don't call me an entertainer. There really totally is a ghost.
So what, you actually saw it?
Indeed, with these very eyes.
Oh, it sounds like quite the intriguing tale. Alright then, how did you happen to meet this ghost of yours, Michiru?
Our story begins on a blazing day in the middle of that long heat wave, the temperature high enough to give a cicada heat stroke. That day, I'd fallen asleep with my AC cranked down to 65 degrees, and late that night, I wandered out into the courtyard to warm my chilled body.
You seem to be operating under a rather fundamental misconception. Air conditioning is supposed to protect you from the heat, not drive you out into it.
Within a few minutes of wandering around in the muggy night, I was longing for the cold again, so I began to head back toward my room.
Okay.
But as I was passing the school building just outside the principal's office, out of nowhere I hear a distant vroom vroom, the sound of a chainsaw running. Of course, at first I thought my ears were playing tricks on me. But as I paused in confusion, I heard the sound again. Then again, not so far away. Eventually the vroom vrooming came to a sudden stop, and then, as I peered through a nearby window into the pitch black deserted hallway, a dark shadow suddenly slipped by. It really happened, I swear.
I see.
The ghost Michiru encountered was definitely me, but her superstitious explanation of those events is pretty convenient.
The heck? I thought you said you saw a ghost, not a lousy shadow. You were probably just seeing things, you know? Must have woke up in the middle of the REM sleep or something. Your brain was still off in La La Land. You got no romance in your heart, do you? Nope, guess not. Unlike Qa'Rajh, I'm actually living in reality. What's that supposed to mean?
I see, though that's how it is. Huh? Pretty low-key reactions, Sakaki-san. I thought scary stories were your weak point. I wouldn't say they are my weak point. Anyway, I'm fairly sure that particular ghost is harmless.
Harmless? How do you know?
Let's see. I suppose you could say it's something of an acquaintance of mine.
Yumiko? I kinda thought you didn't have many friends, but you've been pawing around with the undead behind our backs? I can totally buy Yumi-chan as a popular kid in cool school.
Seems though I've invited some rather irritating misunderstandings. In any case, rest assured you have nothing to fear from that spirit. Right, Kasami-kun? Why ask Yuuji? Because she's figured out its real identity.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that spirit as well. From what the principal tells me, it's one of those friendly ghosts. Seems it won't cause us any trouble unless we go out of our way to provoke it.
If you both say so, I guess it must be true. I'll be able to sleep soundly tonight after all. Good for you, Qa'Rajh. Now you don't need Sachi to escort you to the party at night. I don't call her for stuff like that. For one thing, my room's got a bathroom. Speaking of Sachi, though, she's really spending a lot of time holed up in her room lately. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to tell her about the ghost too, but Yuuji said to leave her alone for the time being, so...
Yep. She's right in the middle of planning out how to get rid of that test for you. Need some time to think.
I understand that, yes. Are you sure she's okay? I've asked Sachi for all sorts of stuff, but I've never seen her this desperate before. Come to think of it, you're right. What happened to Sachi's service with a smile?
This request is just that difficult, I suppose.
Yeah, I tried brainstorming a little myself, but nothing remotely realistic came to mind.
4 gazes settle on me, silently requesting a comment from the person who volunteered to undertake Michiru's request.
It's fine. Yeah, Sachi's definitely got some tunnel vision right now. But that's just because she's seriously concentrating on this request. It's not like she's completely oblivious to the world around her.
So, we don't have to be worried?
That's right. She isn't missing any meals, she still stops by my room every day.
Well, I guess I have to take the boyfriend's word for it, since you spend most of the time with him, but I still can't help feeling worried. Yeah.
Not surprising. As the end of the summer vacation approaches, Sachi's been spending more and more time shut up in her room. Fortunately, the girl does seem to regard maintaining her physical health as one of her responsibilities. I'm pretty sure she's getting at least the minimum necessary nutrition and rest, but...
Alright, since you're all so concerned, I'll go check up on her in a little while.
Yeah, you do that. I think I'd feel a little better. I want an immediate report if something's up with Sachi, yeah?
Right, got it. Well then.
After cleaning the courtyard in Sachi's stead, I make my way over to her room, then pause outside the door. Lately, Sachi hasn't been responding to knocks or even shouts from outside. It's becoming a matter of course to barge into her room first and say hello second.
I'm coming in.
When I enter the room, I'm struck with a powerful sense of déjà vu. It's like I'm watching a recording of yesterday, or the day before that. Even from behind, I can tell Sachi's glaring down at her desk with intense focus. Thick reference books and piles of paper lie in messy heaps across its surface. Seems like she's also been doing a little research on the computers in the school building itself, but for the last few days, the vast majority of her time has been spent working alone in her room. Oblivious to my approach, Sachi silently continues to move her eye across the pages.
Sachi?
No reaction. Not that I've been particularly hopeful.
Hey, Sachi.
Ah, Yukun. I finally succeed in catching Sachi's attention by shaking her shoulder as I speak. Letting her book fall close, she calmly turns her chair to face me. All this is standard part of the new normal, but today I seem to have caught Sachi somewhat off her guard. For a moment, I can see the deep exhaustion in her face. You can even see this black lines under her eyes. That can't be healthy. Is there something on my face?
No, can't say there is, but Michiru and the others are worried, so I promise to check up on you.
They are? So I'm causing everyone concern once again.
Well, your top priority at the moment is fulfilling Michiru's requests. I guess you didn't have much choice but to slightly neglect the rest for the time being.
That's true. One has to keep one's promises after all. Only bad girls tell lies. Only bad girls tell lies. If Sachi truly believes that, there's a question I need to ask her at this point.
Sachi, mind if I ask you something?
Not at all. Please go right ahead.
You told me I could leave this job to you. Is that still true?
Yes, I'll be fine on my own. I avoided asking outright whether she found a method to get rid of the test, hoping to lead her gently toward revealing the truth. But Sachi answers my question without a moment's hesitation.
That a fact?
Yes, I assure you I will carry it out before the day of the test arrives. As she speaks, Sachi intently returns my gaze. I've seen eyes like these before. There's none of Sachi's familiar spark of confidence, none of her composed determination. These are the eyes of a human being driven into a corner, knowing that all roads lie closed to them, still unable to accept their approaching ruin, blindly clinging to an impossible vision of the future. Sachi's eyes are clouded with narcotic haze of denial.
Well, this removes all doubt.
All doubt of what?
Nothing, just talking to myself.
Is that so? A slightly disconcerted expression flashes across Sachi's face, but soon enough she's regained control of her features.
In that case, I'll leave it in your hands. But if something comes up, say the word and I'll help any time.
Thank you. It's very reassuring indeed to hear you say that, Ryukun. After ruffling Sachi's hair for a moment, I quietly leave the room. If Sachi had admitted her dilemma and turned to me for help, events would have probably taken a complete 180 from their current course. And in doing so, I think the answer to my problem would soon have been revealed to her. But instead, Sachi brushed my offer aside and hid her struggle from me. Even to the point of lying, violating her own absolute standards for goodness.
Unfortunately, it seems like my preparation won't have been in vain.
When someone asks you for a symbol of summer, plenty of things probably come to mind. Cicadas, watermelon, the beach, fireworks, shaved ice. Anyone can make a pretty decent list out of just the obvious standards. We've all experienced every one of these at some point. But for students in particular, one of the more memorable aspects of the summer experience arrive only at its very end.
Why? Why today of all days? The weather's so beautiful that God might as well be shouting, go forth and enjoy your final day of summer vacation. Why, oh why do I have to sit around doing homework?
Well, Michiru, that would be because you slacked off until the last possible minute.
Come on, I didn't have Sachi to help this time. She always used to do the problems I couldn't figure out.
Unbelievable. You are having Komina-san help you with your homework? She's a year below you, isn't she?
It's not like I asked. Sachi just offered, so, I sorta...
Ended up letting her spoil you rotten without even realizing it was happening.
Yeah, hopeless, dear. If you end up marrying someone who's got their act together, you're totally gonna turn into a worthless blob into no time flat. Worthless blob? Allow me to elaborate. Too lazy to swim, too lethargic to dare, shaking your sloppy mess of dirty blonde hair with every step. A big old flavorless plate of human jello. Stop it! Stop realistically forecasting my future!
Michiru's got it tough in her own right.
Kasami-kun, do you have a moment? As I watch Michiru thrash about, her beloved twin tail swinging from side to side with all the kinetic energy of a traditional Chinese lion dance, Sakagi sidles up and requests my attention.
What? You haven't finished your homework either, Sakagi?
Follow me, please. Not dignifying my attempt at humor with a response, Sakagi pivots on her heel and begins to walk. I follow obediently. Here should be fine. After briskly making her way up the stairs to the third floor, Sakagi stops abruptly and turns back to face me.
So, why bring me all the way up here? Planning to confess your love or something?
You seem rather composed, but is there really any chance of success?
Ah, so that's what this is about.
Yes, you two accepted a request to get rid of the test, scheduled to be held immediately after summer vacation. At this point, there's practically no time left, and class starts tomorrow, which will only make it more difficult to act.
Absolutely right on all counts, Sakagi.
Do tell me then, how on earth is Komina-san supposed to carry out her mission under the circumstances?
You'll find out soon enough.
Just how long do you plan on keep feeding me this evasive nonsense?
Such a cynic. I'm not being evasive this time.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means that Sachi's going to make her move today. On that note, I need your help with something, Sakagi.
My help?
Yeah. First of all, take these.
I reach into my breast pocket, retrieve the tickets I prepared beforehand, and hold them out for Sakagi to accept. What are these?
A complimentary helicopter ride ticket. 4 of them, to be exact. See Mishima Cape's beautiful night scenery spread out below you, and all that.
I see. Is this your way of asking for a slap to the face?
No, I'm perfectly serious.
Then kindly explain how these tickets have the first thing to do with stopping the test.
We already talked about the possibility of danger, remember? These tickets have a great deal to do with that.
In other words, This is your attempt at getting the rest of us out of harm's way.
Yeah, it's a win-win. You won't face any unfounded suspicion, and it'll be easier for us to act.
I see. That makes sense, I suppose.
Glad to hear it.
But do you really think I'm going to go along with this without proper explanation?
Pretty much, yeah. You did promise to help me out, and I trust you, Sakagi.
As always, you don't play remotely fair. Mumbling in a sulky tone of voice, Sakagi quietly slides the tickets into her pocket.
Thanks, I owe you one.
I'm not doing this to earn favors from you. Anyway, what exactly do you want me to do with these?
Nothing special. Go enjoy the view. Just make sure you get the others to come along.
That's really all there is to it?
Over the last few months, I've learned all too well that corralling that group is never an easy task.
Well, yes, true enough, I suppose.
I'm counting on you to take care of them.
Very well, but when everything's over, I expect a very long and very detailed explanation for all of this. Cutting off the conversation, Sakagi turns to leave the room.
Before you go, I want to apologize.
Huh?
Sorry, Sakagi.
What's gotten into you? Are you feeling guilty about hiding the full truth with me, perhaps?
You'll understand that soon enough as well.
My wisecrack goes over like a lead balloon. In the end, Sakagi stalks off down the stairs in an even worse mood than before.
Sorry for the hassle, Sakagi.
We're home!
Did you miss us?
Just as I'm leaving my room, I hear Amane and Makina returning through the front door.
That's a lot of bags. Shopping expedition, I assume?
Well, yeah, but it was a little weird out there today.
How so?
Well, Amane was wandering around the shopping district with me bouncing the boobies around like always. But everyone kept saying stuff like, must be rough, you two, giving us tons of freebies.
We had no idea what they were talking about, you know. Felt a little awkward getting showered with all this stuff without even knowing why.
I see.
How about you, Yuuji? Any idea what that might be about?
Nothing comes to mind. Maybe they just decided to show some appreciation for your constant patronage?
I hope you're right, but... Not entirely convinced, Amanda wanders slowly up the stairs to the second floor with her head tilted slightly in puzzlement.
Hey, Oni-chan, you seen Sachi today?
Come to think of it, no, she hasn't been around.
If you ain't seen her, then maybe she's off shopping or something.
That's a possibility, yeah.
Alrighty then, if you happen to run into Sachi, let her know I was looking for her, okay?
Got it. I'll pass that on.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay, off to help her buddy.
By snatching half-cooked food off the plate when her back's turned.
How rude! I only snatched in moderation.
Pretty indignant considering she's not even denying it. Not bothering to offer a verbal retort, I watch Makina trot energetically up the stairs towards Amanda's room.
Assuming she's going to act today, that she might already have begun to make her preparations.
Sakagi successfully coaxed the others out. The dorm lies silent and deserted. Alone on the roof, I gaze blankly out at the sinking sun. I'm sure the others had questions about this sudden event and why Sachi and I weren't coming along, but none of them got to me. I guess Sakagi was thoughtful enough to take care of that.
Not long till nightfall.
I'm not particularly fond of the night. To be honest, you could say that I actively dislike it. Night is the deep and hostile blackness that swallows us whole. A darkness so absolute that it feels like a premonition of death. It makes us remember things we'd rather forget, images we'd try to erase from our memories. It shows us, with gut-wrenching clarity, just how weak and powerless we really are. Of course, I'm aware that the same doesn't apply for everyone, but ever since that day, this is what the night has been for me.
Even at a time like this, let down my guard for a minute and I start shaking like an idiot.
And tonight, there's more to it than old traumas. The vague anxiety I felt ever since deciding to bring Sachi normality is weighing heavily on my shoulders. I felt the same way when I forced her to accept this request. It's something like guilt.
I drove Sachi back to the wall for my own selfish reasons. Got practically everyone I know mixed up in this as well. And after all that, even if I succeed, will it really make her any happier?
You're gambling with someone's life here. You're really alright with that? When I close my eyes, the other side of me whispers its doubts.
Look at that. I'm trembling. Still scared of the dark at my age. Almost like a curse, isn't it?
The students gathered in this academy all have their quirks, and I'm no exception. Right now, I'm just a piece of defense equipment kept alive by my country for its own purposes. I'm not gifted with perfect insight and judgment. I've never been a genius like my sister was. Far from it.
Am I really qualified to be messing around with her life?
When I voice my worries, I feel sweat gathering unpleasantly in the palm of my hands. Still, if I let myself flinch this late in the game, my master would probably come back to life just to kick my ass into next week. That's right.
No point in hesitating now. I've already made my decision. I'll do everything I can, and I'll believe in Sachi.
Unlock a single window in the afternoon. Use it to infiltrate the school building after dark. Once access is secured, quickly take the item from its hiding place and bring it inside. Mentally reviewing the plan I've polished over these last few days, I follow the procedure with exacting care, one deliberate step at a time. From what the principal told us, the achievement test will be held the day after tomorrow. However, considering the opening ceremony tomorrow and the unpredictable obstacles it will present, today is my last real chance to carry out this task. But even after all my meticulous research and thorough brainstorming, I was unable to find a plausible alternative to my previous method. It'll be alright. Everything worked out just fine last time. There's no inherent problem with this method. So long as I follow the plan to the letter, don't make any careless mistakes, everything will work out this time as well. It's alright. It's going to be alright. I repeat the words again and again, trying to convince myself they are true. Trying to distract myself from the hazy, dark discomfort smoldering somewhere deep inside my chest. That's a bad feeling. It must be. It's not something a good girl needs. So I've got to stop thinking so much. Regaining my calm effort of will, I begin to spread a certain something along the darkened hallway. The instant the liquid in the thick plastic can touches the outside air, a unique smell fills my nose. I knew this stench well even as a child, when I used to help pour new fuel into the kerosene heaters that warmed our home, but I never did come to like it. As these distracted thoughts run through my head, I empty the can, then drop a rag to the floor and let the oil soak into it. Now I only need light the fire. When I whisper those words to myself, I feel a voice whispering back, somewhere deep inside my mind. My hands come to a sudden stop. And as my thoughts turn to the nature of that voice, I violently shake my head back and forth, pushing it all away. I don't need to listen. Not now. I crouch to the ground, determined, resigned, vaguely feeling something small part of myself give up, and I reach out to the slick rag, a lighter clenched firmly in my hand. The small seed of flame I plant at the corner of the cotton cloth blossoms quickly, spreading along the line of fuel. It transformed before my eyes into a full-scale fire. Scorching heat batters my skin. It's not an unfamiliar sensation. I'm seized with a strange feeling, almost like nostalgia. But none of that matters any longer. Since this time I deactivated the fire alarms and sprinkler system beforehand, all I need to do is repeat this procedure a few times throughout the building. With this, I have succeeded in carrying out Michiro-sama's request, which means I'll also find the answer to Yukon's question soon enough. For a moment relief blooms in my chest, and in the next... What? With the sound of a dozen showers switched on at once, the sprinklers installed in the ceiling spring to life. Before I can even understand the situation, an almost disproportionate torrent of cold water rains down, soaking every inch of the hallway. The flames that were growing so vigorously only seconds before shrink with astonishing swiftness. This can't be happening. Didn't I? I'm sure I did. Why? Just last night, I entered the pump room and turned off every last one of the disaster prevention system installed in this building, even testing that the sprinklers would no longer activate. but all of a sudden they're completely functional. It's simply incomprehensible. The fire's gone out. That one thought filling my mind, I run over to the rag, shelter it with my body, and desperately flip the switch of my lighter. Please, catch fire. Please. But the cloth is already soaked through thoroughly with water. It refuses to accept the flame. A waterlogged piece of cotton isn't going to catch fire. I understand that rationally, but I still push the switch, frantically half-crazed with desperation and terror. This can't be. Why?
So you chose this method after all.
Huh? When I turn the corner into the thoroughly drenched hallway, I find Sachi crouched low on the floor, her eyes wide with shock. Interesting that she came in full school uniform, not the maid outfit she finds it easier to work in. I guess she was trying to show respect for the place, in her own way. Is this... Yukon? Did you...
Yeah, turned the sprinklers on this afternoon, if that's what you're wondering about. Well, it'd be a pain in the ass if the alarms went off, so I did leave those deactivated.
This can't be happening.
Carefully shutting down the preventive systems beforehand to enable setting a large-scale fire. Just the sort of plan I'd expect from you, Sachi.
But why? Why did you do this, Yukon? Why are you here? How did you...
It's actually pretty simple to predict the way a competent, careful person would approach something like this. If I was going to try and set fire to this building, I'd done the exact same thing. Taking out the sprinklers was a necessity, and today was the only day to do it.
Huh? Wait, you knew I was planning to?
Yeah, I expected you to use this method from the start. And I turned the sprinklers back on because there's something I want to tell you.
Sachi's mind doesn't seem to have fully caught up with the events. Her face is blank, her eyes filled with puzzlement. Most likely she hadn't even begun to consider the possibility that someone would step in to interfere at this juncture.
The situation you're dealing with here is completely different from the last one. The size and construction of this building is nothing like that little wooden schoolhouse. Plus, it's equipped with state-of-the-art firefighting systems. Disabling those beforehand was a good start, but sprinkling kerosene around like they did last time would require a lot more fuel to be really effective, and you need a lot more time to spread it. Considering that you absolutely have to do the job alone before anyone notices, your chances of success are virtually nil. It's entirely likely you'd cause some damage here and there, but that's not going to be a huge problem. The test would just be moved to an intact classroom. This place was designed for people like us, remember? You're not going to shut it down that easily.
As I lay out the truth of the situation, Sachi stares up at me with disbelief and terror in her eyes. Then, I'm going to...
Yeah, at this rate you're going to fail.
This can't... The color instantly drains from Sachi's face. She slumps jerkily to the soaking wet floor like a puppet cut from its strings.
Why so surprised? I'm pretty sure you knew this wouldn't work all along. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been searching that intently for another way. No need for all that research if your previous method was good enough. But no matter how you looked, no matter how hard you thought it over, no other solution presented itself. And unable to find a genuinely viable strategy, you had no choice but to turn to your previous method. Since there was no other way, even if the prospects looked dim, you could at least cling to the thought that it worked before. Am I wrong?
That's not true. It worked fine last time, so it's going to work this time as well. Everything's going to be alright. Because even if there's no other way, I simply have to succeed. I can't even think about failing. I can't fail. It's not allowed. I have to be a good girl. I have to, no matter what it takes. I have to carry out this request. I've never seen this expression on her face before. Never heard her voice so thick with emotion. The sound echoes fiercely down the dark hallway. No one responds. Her anguish and desperation hangs in the air for a moment, then fade into indifferent silence, as if to symbolize a long, lonely, futile struggle.
Tell me something, Sachi. Why are you so determined to do everything asked of you? Why are you so persistent with this good girl thing? Getting rid of a test is a completely unreasonable demand to make of a normal human being. The others said as much, didn't they? Even if you give up now, they'll probably just say, Yeah, I figured as much. Nobody's going to hold it against you.
You don't know that, Yukon. You can't know that.
What?
No matter how intimate you may be with someone, you can never truly know their feelings. Not even if they're your own family. That's why I can't allow myself to fail. Not even once. I don't want to lose anything, so I have to be a good girl now. I have to study harder than anyone else. I have to do what I'm told without fail. I have to become a person that anyone would love. Otherwise, everyone will go away. It's true, I was a bad little girl and all the people I loved left me behind. My mom and dad, who were always so kind and affectionate toward me, they got sick of my selfishness and now they're gone. It was no different with you, Yukon. I'd rather die than have the things I love taken away from me again. I don't want to feel that sort of pain ever again. I don't want to lose anything else. I can't fail, no matter what. If I fail now, everyone will leave me again. Yukon, who told me to be his girlfriend, Michiru-sama, Maki-chan, Amano-san, Saki-san, Principal Tachibana, everyone I care about will leave me. Sachi's feelings flow out of her in a torrent of words, her voice rising to a shout. But every sentence is filled with such bitterness that it's difficult to even listen. The pain of losing those who are precious to her, the sadness and the impotent anger, all jumbled together in an anguished veil. To me it sounds like the voice of a child crying out for help.
So then, if you become a good girl, if you succeed in this request, will you be yourself again?
Huh?
Will acting like a good girl should keep the things you love safe? What do you think, Sachi?
Sachi bared her heart to me. In return, I offer not kindness or comforting words, but a steady gaze. Yes, of course.
I see. In that case, I'll grant your wish.
What?
I'm going to help you become the person you want to be. I'll make sure you complete this task.
But why?
I made a promise, didn't I? I want to help you be yourself.
Even so, you just said it would be virtually impossible to succeed.
Virtually impossible means there's a non-zero chance. And if you're not trying to do everything alone, things change pretty dramatically. As long as you're really willing to do whatever it takes, there are plenty of ways to get this done.
Is that really true?
Of course.
Yukon, are you saying you have a plan?
Yeah, I have a slightly different way of doing things, but it should be fine. Preliminary arrangements are already in place.
When did you...
I assumed joint responsibility for our success on this job. And when 1929 participates in a mission, failure isn't an option.
Of course this isn't an Ichigaya job, but I'm not going on a cleaning expedition. Even so, I'm still my master's pupil. Asako didn't just develop my technique and cram me full of technical knowledge, she taught me a whole way of thinking. No matter what the job entails, I'll face it with the resolve and focus I bring to the most dangerous missions. 9029?
Well, that's just a number that comes with a bit of a reputation. No matter how ugly things look, 1929 pulls through.
Sachi gazes up at me as though I've descended on a cloud from heaven. Having proposed this strategy, I naturally know full well how things are going to play out. And when I think about what's coming, it takes a real effort not to turn away from that gaze. Yukon?
No, it's nothing.
Shaking my head lightly to drive away that lingering touch of guilt, I settle my face into a serious expression.
But since it's your perfect record at stake here, I think you should be the one to actually carry this plan out.
Of course, if there's any part at all I can play, please allow me.
Right. In that case, there's something I want you to do for me.
And what would that be? We're in the principal's office, aren't we?
Yeah, this was my base camp during the initial preparations.
Although Chizuru might be irritated to hear me say it, I needed a room no one was likely to drop by and visit. In other words, you've been preparing for some time.
That's right. The method I came up with involved a good amount of simple spade work.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, everything's more or less ready to go, but we still need the finishing touch.
The finishing touch?
I'd like you to help me with that.
I retrieve a seizable duraluminium case from behind the desk and swing it open. What is this? It's rather squishy, almost like clay. Yes, it's not surprising that Sachi wouldn't recognize this stuff, no matter how broad her studies may be. Well, she might have heard of it, but that probably wouldn't translate into recognizing it by sight.
I'm hoping to wrap this up before midnight, so I'm not going to explain in detail at the moment. Just think of it as clay for now, like you said.
This clay will enable us to eliminate the standardized test?
Yeah, once you set some of that up in a few places, the job's done. And I'll show you what needs to be done. Think you can handle it, Sachi?
Yes, I'm quite proud of my sculpting ability. Please leave it to me.
Your artistic talents aren't really relevant, but whatever. The confidence should be more than enough to pull this off.
Yes.
Alright, first of all, I'd like to explain how to install it. You see this deep hole here?
Yes, and some sort of wooden box here and there and all the way.
Well, getting all of these ready was one part of the spade work I mentioned.
Ah, I see.
Anyway, when you see a hole like this, install one of these long, thin pieces of clay inside, like so. If there's a square drawn on the wall instead, set one of these square pieces of clay on top of it. That's all you need to do for me. Any questions?
None.
Excellent. I've marked the points you need to cover on these plans, so go ahead and get started. I'll be taking care of something else in the meantime.
Yes, certainly.
Looks like that's about it.
Yes.
Sachi can't fully mask the weariness on her voice or in her face. No doubt a result of all the pressure she's been under lately.
Our final task completed, we meet up in the courtyard as arranged beforehand. I really did just place some clay according to the marks of these plans. Will this truly enable us to prevent the test?
Yeah, as long as we didn't make any mistakes, it will.
Is that so? Apparently not fully buying my assurances, Sachi answers somewhat half-heartedly. Of course, she doesn't have the concrete details. To her, it really was nothing more than scattering some clay around the building. It would be stranger if she wasn't a little dubious at this point.
Okay, I can tell you want to see some results. Let's get moving.
Yes, certainly. Yukon, where exactly are we going? Sachi tagged along in silence for a good while, but eventually she's no longer able to contain her uncertainty.
A place where we can overlook the school.
Why is that necessary?
You'll understand soon enough. Alright, I guess here will be fine.
After about 20 minutes of walking, we reach a high place not far away. There's little cover of any sort. Below us, the reclaimed spit of land where our school stands lies clearly visible. Well, this certainly overlooks the school. It's quite a pretty view, but Yukon, what are we going to do here?
Before I answer that question, there's something I want to confirm.
Confirm?
Yeah. You sure you want to do this? Fulfill this request?
What exactly do you mean by that?
You want to do what you're told without fail, to answer every demand anyone makes of you. And so you're absolutely determined to carry out even a completely unreasonable request like getting rid of a test. That's the choice you're making here. You sure you're not going to regret it?
Regret it?
Listen to me, Sachi. This is an important question. Think it over carefully and give me an honest answer.
Sachi falls silent. A serious expression on her face. Looks like she already started to deliberate. I don't know what she's thinking. I don't know how she's reasoning her way through this question. But no matter how dependent she may be on others, no matter how passive and obedient her way of life, in the end her decisions are her own. If nothing else, I want to remind her of that. Yukon, I want to carry out this request. I need to be a good girl. That's the only way I can be myself.
I see.
Then I have no choice but to make her realize. Guess that's going to cause a bit of trouble for you guys, but those are the breaks. Your luck ran out the day I transferred into your class. Sorry, Sakagi, Amane, Michiro, Makina.
Alright then. Throw this switch and you'll get what you want.
With those words, I retrieve a crudely made remote control from my jacket and hand it to Sachi. I just need to throw this switch?
Yeah, doesn't look like much, does it? But I guarantee you that thing will get rid of the test. Throw that switch and you'll stay a good girl.
Certainly. After staring down at the small box in her hand for a long moment, Sachi shifts her gaze to her school, firm conviction in her eyes.
Wahoo! My tummy's puffed up with all that tasty Chinatown food.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had Chinese that good before.
Chiro, I'm kind of sleepy after eating so much. Let me use your lap for a pillow, okay? What? Why do I have to be the pillow? Only for a minute, you got that? Thank you kindly, Chiro. Don't call me that! How about Juru? That's not even a nickname anymore, you're just a creepy sound effect.
But not only did you treat us to a luxury all-you-can-eat buffet in Chinatown, you're taking us on a nighttime helicopter tour. I know your family's pretty well off, Sakaki-san, but are you sure it's okay to live up like this? Not a problem. The Chinese was the only thing I paid for, after all. Huh? What was that? Nothing important.
Hey, Yumiko, is that Tokyo Tower? You know, the Tokyo Tower?
Matsushima-san, I understand that you're a little excited about your first aerial night view, but could you please keep it down a little?
So rude! This isn't my first time in the sky at night. I've flew overseas a couple of times for your information.
Oh? I didn't know you've been abroad, Michiru.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though.
Anyway, this was a pretty cool thought, Sakaki-san. Pretty memorable way to spend the last day of summer vacation. I suggest you direct your thanks to Kasami-kun. Wait, why Yuuji? Because he's the one who suggested this to me. Oh, did you now? So that's why you've gone dare on us all of a sudden.
Anyway, I gotta say, Tokyo's really pretty and all, but we haven't been looking at our own town much, have we?
Well, yeah, I can't do much about that. Mishima's Cape practically a countryside by comparison. Not nearly as flashy.
That ain't true. Look, like something just flashed over there.
Huh? Wait, where? What? A brief flash of light. Unlike an aerial bombing, there's no brilliant burst of flame to accompany the powerful sound blast. A pretty plain explosion as things go. The school building where I spent the last 3 months of my life, and such nearly a year of hers, crumbles noisily before our eyes. That's Mihamura Academy, isn't it? Yep, it was Mihamura Academy at least. We just got rid of it, along with that test. Then that clay-like substance I installed earlier, was that? Plastic explosives. Modern Japanese architecture is world famous for its strict building codes and sturdy engineering, you know. Demolishing even a modest-sized structure requires a lot of detailed calculations, and boring into the supporting columns is a pretty involved process. Just getting the necessary amount of explosives ready was a real challenge. Anyway, with the building itself gone, the school won't be up and running anytime soon. That test isn't going to happen. In fact, I expect that's going to be the last thing on anyone's mind for a while. I suppose you're right. Sachi responds vaguely to my explanation, her tone absent-minded. The words seem to have left her mouth out of reflex. Her attention is clearly glued to the building below, or what's left of it anyway. There were plenty of other formalities and preparation involved as well. Considering all the time it took to set this up, it sure disappeared pretty quickly. That's true. Something wrong? This is what you wanted, right? Yes, it's just, as you say, you can... Since there won't be any test, I fulfilled Michiro-sama's request. And that means I'm still a good girl. That's all I wanted. That's exactly what I've been trying so hard all this time to accomplish. I've succeeded, so this is rather strange. Why is my chest aching like this? Apparently unable to grasp her own emotions, Sachi continues to stare down at the rubble that once was her school, her face blank with confusion. Oh, and she's crying. Can't understand where that's coming from, huh? Yes. Well, I guess that's not surprising. Huh? You never felt uncertainty about doing what you're told, have you? Never felt it necessary to even consider how obeying an order makes you feel. Then I... Put a hand to your cheek. Huh? Sachi obediently brings a hand to her face, and her fingers brush against a small stream of tears. Huh? But why? The girl wasn't even aware that she was crying. Her confusion only deepening, Sachi looks up at me with a face full of pure bewilderment. You may not be conscious of it yet, but a part of you already knows the answer to that question. What was that place? The school I've been attending for the last year. And? A place where many things happened, with you, Yukon, and with our classmates. Specifically, what sort of things? We took many different classes together. We played together. Once, we even ate floating salmon on the roof.
Anything else come to mind?
Recently, I shared my troubles and received a great deal of advice there. Advice about slightly naughty matters. Advice about fashion and my personal style. Even advice regarding the problems you asked me to solve, Yukon.
So you spend a lot of time there. What sort of memories are those?
Very happy ones, I think. At my previous school, I never would have thought it possible that a classroom could be such a lively, pleasant place. The townspeople likened Miyama Academy to a prison, but when I transferred in, I found quite the opposite. Where the outside world had come to see me as a problem to be solved, this school accepted me. Michiru-sama trusted me and relied on me. Maki-chan showed me I was a best friend. Amanda-san taught me so many things. Sakaki-san always watched over me from behind. The words begin to flow smoothly, naturally. Sachi no longer needs my question to guide her, as she begins to understand the meaning of her tears, her honest feeling come pouring out of her mouth. A place of warmth and shelter, very much like the home I once loved so much. That was the Miyama Academy I knew.
That a fact?
Yes. Yes, this school was a very special place for me.
Right. And you just destroyed that special place with your own hands. Since your 10th birthday, you've been clinging persistently to a single idea, telling yourself it's the one and only answer. Do what you're told, be a good girl, never disobey. And your stubborn adherence to that simplistic rule brought you to this moment.
That can't be. Why? I tried so very hard all this time to do exactly what I was told. Why did this happen? If being a good girl can't protect the things I love, then what was the point of all my hard work? This isn't right. This is all wrong. I didn't want this. This isn't what I wanted at all.
Remember what you said to me just a few minutes ago? You told me that being a good girl is what allows you to be yourself. That is the only way to ensure your happiness.
Yes.
Sorry, but you were wrong. That's not how this works. Sure, an intelligent, pathologically helpful, honor student will probably make plenty of friends anywhere they go. You're so useful to have around, most people probably treated you nicely enough for their own convenience. And when they realized that what you were carrying, when you were no longer of any use to them, I guess they abandoned you quickly enough. That's how it always will. But how about the people in this school? You think they're the same way?
I'm not...
Do you really believe Michiru and Makina think of you as nothing but their personal lackey? Do you really believe they had abandoned a friend for failing to carry out a single order?
No, I don't.
That's right. You've been so afraid of losing something that you couldn't even see what you had. You've been going through life curled up in a shell, both eyes squeezed shut. In exchange for your brittle happiness, you lost sight of what was around you. You've lost something you didn't even know you had. That's what I wanted you to realize.
In trying to protect my happiness, I lost something.
Yeah. You know, human beings may be the smartest animal currently strutting around the earth, but that doesn't mean we're the wisest. No matter how much we learn, how advanced our civilization become, we're still complete idiots about the simple thing. When it comes right down to it, we don't realize how precious anything is until we lose it. It might be giving you a pretty pompous lecture right now, but I'm no exception to that rule myself.
Then, you've also...
Yeah. There was a reason I couldn't promise to play with you on your birthday. My sister had died in an accident. And with her gone, my family crumbled in on itself like a house of cards. And the only one who got through there, it alive.
I had no idea you could...
Of course you didn't. I never told you.
So, was all this your attempt to teach me what you learned then?
Not entirely. I also wanted to learn something about you.
About me?
Yeah. There was a time when you could have asked me for anything, and all you requested was my praise. That's the one thing I've never really understood. But after hearing your feelings just now, I think I finally found my answer. I turned Sachi toward me and softly rested my hand on her head. It's been a long and lonely road, hasn't it? You did good, Sachi. You really did. Speaking in the gentlest tone of voice I can manage, I affectionately ruffled Sachi's hair.
Her eyes open wide as saucers, and in the next moment fat tears are running down her face.
You can...
You were waiting to hear those words, weren't you?
Utterly lost, overwhelmed by pain, sadness and confusion, waiting for someone to show her the way forward, waiting for someone to see the crushing guilt she carried, to know the punishment she levied on herself every moment of every day, and to tell her, "You've done enough."
Perhaps you're right. I've been so afraid for so long. When I got good grades on my test or helped out around the house, Mom and Dad would always smile and praise me. But all of a sudden they turned so very cold. The home I loved so much was filled with the droning of machines, and in the end they left me forever. All because I'd been such a selfish little girl. If only I'd been good, if only I'd listened, they would have stayed. So I decided to never fail again, to become a good girl I should have been all along.
I see. Then I suppose I'm the only one who can tell you this now. You don't have to be a good girl anymore. I understand your feelings. I understand how hard you've tried. You've done more than enough. You can rest now.
Is that really so?
Yeah.
Do I really not have to be a good girl anymore?
Yeah, it's true.
Her 10th birthday, a day that should have been full of happy memories, ended in unimaginable tragedy. Ever since, Sachi's lived a half-life, bound tightly by the irrational guilt of a child, until this moment. The good girl she never truly was, the role she forced herself to play all this time, evaporates with her tears into the warm night. All this time she suffered quietly, locking her constant fear and pain somewhere out of sight. Nobody can erase those years or the mark they left on her. And nobody can undo the accident that ruined her life. There's one and only one thing I can do for Sachi right now. Hold her shaking body in my arms until her tears run dry.
I apologize. I'm alright now.
Right.
When she's cried her fill, Sachi firmly wipes her cheeks dry and raises her head from its resting place against my chest.
I do apologize for the unsightly spectacle.
Nothing to worry about. A girl's tear-stained face is a special privilege reserved for a boyfriend.
Oh, so seeing me cry is a reward for you?
I did just blow up a school for you, remember? I don't think it's too much to ask.
Come to think of it, we really did destroy Mihama Academy, didn't we? Although it's such a shock that none of this feels particularly real yet.
Yeah, we did. Probably going to cause Sakagi and company a lot of trouble. Not to mention everyone who works there.
Wait, is everyone alright? Was the dormitory damaged?
As she finally realizes the potential for collateral damage involved in this little show, the color drains from Sachi's face.
Don't worry about them. They are in a safe place.
That's very good to hear.
An expression of pure relief spreading across her face, Sachi brings a hand to her chest as if to slow the frantic beating of her heart. It's a simple, earnest gesture, one that speaks volumes about her feelings towards our classmates.
But even so, we have made a spectacular nuisance of ourselves. Perhaps we should consider cutting our stomachs open in apology.
That would kind of make this whole thing pointless, don't you think?
Come to think of it, I suppose you're right.
It feels like it's been an awfully long time since I've had one of these distinctive pure Sachi moments. That brings me a slight sense of relief somehow. It makes me feel like all this wasn't a waste of effort on my part.
Well, we can't exactly go put the school back together again, but like I told you before, I spent some time on the planning phase here, and a big part of that was figuring out how to keep the damage and fuss to a minimum.
Now that you mention it, considering the size of that explosion, there doesn't seem to be much of an uproar.
Yeah, I guess we got to thank Chizuru and JB for that one.
In other words, Haruderas-san and Principal Tachibana were aware of this would happen?
When we entered the principal's office, didn't you notice that most of the books and documents were missing?
No, I can't say that I did.
Well, I guess you had other things to worry about at the time, but in any case, yeah, I got myself in some pretty serious debt to make this happen.
Just how large of a debt would that be?
Let's see. Even if I worked the rest of my life for free, I doubt I'd be able to pay this one back. Handle this sort of thing wrong, and there's a possibility I'd end up getting disposed of through an accidental death.
That's horrible. And you still did all this? That's just...
From what I'd seen, this was the only way I'd get through to you. You needed to fail through success. If all I wanted was to get rid of that test, I could have just asked Chizuru.
I hadn't even considered such a possibility.
Exactly the reason I had to blow up the school instead. Sachi draws a sharp little breath and looks away, a tinge of sadness and guilt in her eyes. You know, Sachi.
Yes?
A little while ago I said you were wrong to think being a good girl would protect your happiness. But to be honest, I can't say your way of thinking was entirely mistaken.
Huh?
As a kid, you struggled desperately to find that answer. It got you back on your feet. You fought hard all this time, living by that belief. And eventually you found people who understand you and care about you. You found what you were looking for. That's not a way of life you need to be ashamed of. But there's one important thing to keep in mind. You can't allow yourself to lose sight of what you're trying to protect.
What I'm trying to protect?
Yeah. No one's asking you to change who you are. You're probably going to keep on being a pretty good kid. And that means people are going to keep asking you favors. And that's fine. All you need to do is think over every request individually. Think about what they're asking you and why. Think about whether it's reasonable. Think about the consequences of saying yes, and then accept or decline. I know you're capable of making those decisions for yourself, Sachi. But if your confidence ever wavers, come to me and we'll talk it over together. I'll rack my brains with you until you make up your mind one way or the other.
You can...
There's not much else I can do, but I'll always be there to listen.
Hearing those words, I believe I finally understand.
Understand?
Yes. There was another question you asked me, Yukon. That day on the beach, you asked why I pulled your sleeve. I think I found my answer.
Come to think of it, I did ask something like that.
Yes, and it left me entirely stumped at first. In the end, I asked the others for their thoughts.
I see. So I guess that would explain the regular meeting Sakaki had mentioned the other day.
And according to our classmates, the answer was in fact quite obvious. They thought I had simply fallen in love with you, Yukon. Was that the correct answer?
Why ask me? Probably faster to ask your heart, or hormones if you're feeling pragmatic.
I suppose you're probably right about that. I believe they were right. For some time now, I believe I've been guided by a single emotion above all others.
What makes you think that?
Just a little while ago, I was feeling perfectly normal. But now, just by being at your side, my heart's pounding like a drum. Blushing an unusually vivid shade of red, Sachi smiles up at me. Among all the expressions I've seen on her face these past few months, I think this might just be the single most natural, and the happiest.
I see.
Please allow me to make the formal announcement. Pausing briefly, Sachi closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. I, Kumina Sachi, love you, Yukon. So if it's alright with you, I'd very much like to keep being your girlfriend. She speaks her feelings plainly and directly, the smile never leaving her face. It's almost like I'm looking at a memory of the Sachi I knew as a child. There's a slightly enjoyable tickle of embarrassment in my chest. Well, it seems I managed to win over the girl somehow. But this one gives as good as she gets. I came up with a lot of pretty decent justifications for trying to help her. Repaying the kindness she showed me as a child, discovering the meaning of my master's words, etc., etc. But to be honest, it's a lot less complicated than that. I've been slowly but surely falling in love with Sachi for a while now. You want the girl you love to be smiling. When something's making her suffer, you want to get rid of it. That's really all there was to it. Yukon, is the long silence really necessary? It's making me rather nervous.
But your anxious face isn't half bad either.
You are a bully after all, Yukon.
Don't get sulky. You're going to have to put up with this sort of thing on a regular basis from now on.
Does that mean?
Of course. If my pomposity has finally set off some warning bells, you can withdraw your candidacy before it's too late.
No, I'm afraid you're stuck with me as well. Breaking into an ear-to-ear grin, she throws herself forward against my chest. Something about the pleasant warmth of her body brings the vague feelings I've been carrying all this time into sharp focus. I'm not very bright, am I? You asked me to be a girlfriend. You told the others you would accept their request in my place, and you gave me so many words of encouragement and advice. But it took so very long for me to understand the meaning.
I don't see the problem.
Huh?
This isn't a race. How long it took you to see what you were missing isn't important. What really matters is how clear you understand where you went wrong, and how well you make use of that knowledge from now on.
That's a wonderful sentiment.
Can't take the credit. I'm quoting someone who helped me find my own way in life, a while ago now.
In other words, you're Yukon?
The hell's that supposed to mean?
You've always helped me find my way, Yukon. Yesterday and today, then and now. That's what it means.
Nice to hear. I'll have to take Sachi's word for it, though. I really don't remember doing that much for her. But even if I'm not half the person my master was, I left a mark on Sachi's heart back then. And maybe, in helping her now, I've managed to pay off some small part of the debt of gratitude I owe as Asako.
In any case, it was very kind of you to say that I don't need to change who I am. But I'm afraid I'll likely never be the good girl I was again.
Sorry, what does that mean?
You told me you wanted to be myself. I think that means both the selfish person I was and the good girl I've tried to become. I'm not fully me unless I accept every part of myself, am I?
I see. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it.
Yes, and at the moment, I'm in the mood to be quite selfish indeed.
Selfish?
You taught me something very precious today, and my gratitude is proving very nearly irrepressible. And above all else, I want to make you understand just how in love with you I am.
The words are barely out of Sachi's mouth before she brings her face to mine.
Just like that, she softly kisses me. For the first time, I feel the warmth of her lips against mine. A long, gentle kiss, as if to affirm our mutual feelings. As I savor the simple pleasure, I wrap my arms firmly around Sachi, pulling the weight of her body against me. For a long moment, Sachi closes her eyes and focuses entirely on the movement of her lips. When she finally pulls back to draw breath, her mouth leaves mine with palpable reluctance. I love you, Yukon. Then and now, and from now on as well.
Yeah, same to you, kid.
Expressing your feelings and having them returned in kind is truly a wonderful thing.
That a fact?
I had wondered for some time why you wouldn't kiss me, why you never took our sexual encounters to their natural conclusion, but now I think I understand that as well.
Oh, let's hear it then.
Because of this moment, because what I'm feeling right now is a very precious thing.
Nice work as always.
Thank you very much. With an amused smile and words of thanks, Sachi offers me a polite little bow. I've heard the same many times before. But now that I fully understand just how much I care about the girl, the sincere gratitude in her voice inspires a wave of happiness that takes me by surprise in its intensity. And so, I would ask that you allow me to keep expressing my feelings from this day forward, including the things I wasn't able to say before, all of my feelings.
You sure do ask a lot, don't you?
I suggest you brace yourself. After all, you were my first love as well.
Yeah, I'll strengthen my resolve.
So Sachi can smile like this after all.
I love you, Sachi.
For the first time, I tell her exactly how I feel, and immediately thereafter I bring my lips to hers. Being loved by someone, and loving them in return. A basic human experience. Normal, healthy emotions, uncomplicated happiness. The sort of thing I thought I'd lost forever a long time ago. But it seems the life I've led wasn't enough to permanently erase that part of me. I finally found it again. Savoring the pleasure of our simultaneous physical and emotional connection, we lie here for some time, enjoying the warmth of each other's bodies. And that's where we'll end this episode. So we definitely got some drama. And we shall see what happens in the next episode, because obviously we can't go back to the school now that it's been blown up. So Yuuji definitely has some explaining to do, even if Sakaki knows what he's trying to do. We are getting closer to the end of Sachi's route, but we're not there yet. As you'll remember with the other routes, before the end we had a final concluding choice. A choice that would lead us down whether we wanted a good or a bad ending for that character we followed. I've only showed the good endings because I personally don't like the bad endings. There's another reason, but I won't get into that. Probably not in this series, because it's a bit of a long explanation, and I think it would serve the series better as a whole if I didn't explain it until it gets fitting to the story. But we'll get to that eventually. For now, we'll just save it here, and we shall see what happens in the next episode. But until then, take care.